Welcome to Diary of a Dreamer, where resilience unlocks your potential. I'm Tasha Eizinger, and each week I'll bring you powerful stories and practical insights from my own experiences and inspiring guests. Whether you're facing challenges or chasing dreams, this podcast is your go-to for motivation, building confidence, and practical tips for transforming obstacles into opportunities. Let's dive into today's episode and start turning your dreams into reality. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Doing great. What have you been up to?
Oh, same old, trying to figure out sort of what direction I want to take in life and where I want to go with the books and of course where my next vacation is going to be. So what about you?
No, living the dream, huh?
Always.
So Sarah, I'm trying to think, we met at the BookCon event at the same library I'm at right now, which is kind of cool.
That is very serendipitous.
Yes, and our booths were side by side, and anybody who's done a vendor event knows that it's a long day. You sit there and you may as well be buddies with your neighbor, and so we had a lot of opportunity to talk. And that's when I learned that you have been to 26 countries on 3 continents. You have 2 decades of travel experience, and of course it was BookCon, so you had your book Don't Pack That. And I'm so excited to be talking with Sarah May today and to go over all things traveling, which we've had a lot of conversations recently about that. So we may have to do another interview next summer or something too.
A little after action to see what you thought.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. So what got you into traveling and sparked that in you?
I think I get that question a lot, and it's kind of hard to just sort of assign it to something because when we were very young, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so we did a lot of road trips, and I got used to road trips. But then when I was in high school, our band director pulled off the impossible and made some kind of deal with Carnival Cruise Lines to get us as the show performance for a cruise to Mexico out of New Orleans. I'm originally from the South, and that was my very first time outside of the country, and it was so different, and people talked funny, and the food was weird, and everything was different, and it was so captivating. I still, that experience was just defining for me. It would be several years before I would travel like that again, but I had a follow-up opportunity when I was in the military to travel a little bit, and there's something about being immersed in another culture that it holds up a little bit of a mirror to your own. And I enjoy that kind of introspection, and travel is one of the only ways to do that.
I agree. And I think it's one of the best ways to grow as a human being, because we can live in our little bubble. You know, this is the way that my friends and family think, and my friends and family act, dress, talk, all of it. And when you travel and get around other people, that immersion is the best way to learn. And Don't Pack That, you have so much information for a brand new traveler, as well as experienced seasoned travelers, everything in between. What are some of the must things to do to properly prepare for a trip?
Well, that's a great question, especially because it doesn't matter, like you said, it doesn't matter whether you're a noob to traveling, or if you've never really left your home county or whatever, or if you've been doing it for 20 years. There's a lot of different approaches and a lot of different questions, but I think the most important question is, why are you traveling in the first place? What's the point? Are you going on a road trip with your family so that your kids can have a good memory? Are you going for your once in a lifetime trip to Paris? Are you, determined to eat the best sushi in Japan? Are you, what's the purpose of your trip? What's the actual intention that you have for yourself and anyone that may or may not be going with you? Because that's what's going to dictate everything. To me, if you're going somewhere just so that you can say, oh, yep, I've been here. Okay, that's fine. That's a very different vacation than I want something my kids are going to cherish forever. And by understanding that intentionality in it, I think that can help you choose the activities you want to do and the location of where you want to go in a much more meaningful way. Because to me, if it's just a cookie cutter vacation that you're just going through the motions, then that's not meaningful, right? That's not changing. That doesn't give you anything to reflect on.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, because you're so right. When my husband and I first started going to Florida, since that's such an easy trip from Indiana to go to Florida, his vision of Florida is being on the go and doing stuff. And I'm like, no, no, no. We go to the beach, we lay around, because I'm always on the go doing stuff in my day-to-day life. I want to just chill. And so intentionality makes a lot of sense. So then you can properly prepare, pack, plan all of it for your trip. So I know I'm excited to ask, as far as all the places you've gone, everything you've seen and done, what do you think are the 3 must-see locations to have a unique once-in-a-lifetime experience?
Well, I think that's a great question. And it's one that warrants a lot of reflection, because in case you haven't, your listeners haven't been able to tell yet, I'm not fond of just giving like, oh, you need to go see the Eiffel Tower, you need to go see the Great Wall of China, because it's different for everybody, right? So of course it's going to be a hyper-personalized answer. And what I would say is something in nature that makes you feel small, right? Something like Puzzlewood or the Grand Canyon, right? And then I think something ancient by human standards, like the Great Wall of China or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey or the Colosseum in Rome. And then I think something incredibly technological and massive in an urban sense, like Hong Kong or Manhattan or, London, because seeing man's marvels, nature's marvels, and time's marvels, those are the things that are going to change you the most.
Oh, great answer.
Thank you.
I love that. I guess where's a place that you've been that you'd want to go back from all the amazing things that you've seen?
I mean, I'll go back to Italy anytime because I just love prosciutto so much. As far as like maybe one place I've only been once I'm going to go back to, I'm not sure. I like to explore new, and I like the new experiences, but I mean, like everybody, I enjoy the comforts of the areas I already know. I do kind of miss Dresden, Germany. Dresden is an absolutely beautiful city. The scars of the war, you can still see them on the outsides of the buildings. There's some charring and stuff around the royal palace. And the last time I was there, well, the only time that I was there, 12 years ago, yikes. They were renovating the palace into a museum. And so I would love to go back there and kind of see where it's at. One of the unique things, given the frequency of my travel, one of the unique things is that I actually have watched some of these urban projects over the decades, which has been really cool. And so I need to get back to Rome so I can see if they ever got done building the C line of the metro, because every 10 feet they run into some other archaeological piece and they have to stop for 3 years while they do research. So,
oh my word.
Yeah, I would say my number one return to is probably Rome. I would imagine that that's the city that I'm the closest aligned with. But as far as a one and done that I kind of miss, I would say Dresden, Germany.
Yeah, I think that's actually really cool to think about, seeing the progress of these ancient cities.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see the history and the progress and like get that full experience, which is so cool. And I'm sure there's like people listening right now thinking, Sarah, this is so great. Happy for you. How can I afford to travel? People are struggling financially right now. So what advice do you have to do it on a budget?
Oh, this is my favorite topic. This is the part where I get real excited. So if you want to know how to travel on a budget, start with the $5.99 that this book costs on audio on Audible. You'll have to listen to my voice for I think 3.5 hours, but you know what? It'll be worth it if you take notes. So I love when people think that European vacations are unrealistically expensive, because they really don't have to be. So the first thing, and of course it would be cheating because you and I have been talking about this a lot lately, but normally in these conversations, I would ask someone, how much do you think it would cost for you to get an international flight? Like if you wanted to fly to Paris in 3 weeks, how much do you think it would cost? Most people would say, in my experience, they'd say, oh man, $1,000 at least. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. You can find flights from major cities if you don't mind traveling a little bit. We're not that far from Chicago. We're not that far from Detroit. We're not that far from Indianapolis. And if you're a little more flexible in your travel plans, you can get those flights to Europe for less than $400 a person round trip. Then there's hostels are one of the ways you get, like in Europe in particular, hostels are one way to do it. If you're a little more adventurous, you can do something called ecotourism. And what ecotourism is basically you just buy your flight and you get to a farm You work through a licensed website. There are resources out there. Don't just go try to hit up some guy in the countryside of Costa Rica. Okay, like use a Google.
Be smart about this.
Yes, like be safe, y'all. But there are this ecotourism. You can go and you can work a farm, and they will feed you and they will house you, and you just work for them maybe 4 hours a day, and then you're free to do what you want the rest of the day.
That's so cool. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Absolutely. And like hostels are another great one because you can work for your bed, as it were. So if you work the front desk for usually 4 to 6 hours a day, that's what it seems to be for most of it. If you work the front desk or you work the bar or you clean the rooms or whatever, like whatever job they have for you, they'll give you your bunk for free. And so, okay, so $400 for a round trip flight. All right. You do ecotourism. So now your room is covered because you're working. You know, you can stay longer if you have the time. If you have a flexible schedule, you can stay longer, you know, and then now you just have to work for your food. All right. Maybe give a tour here or there. Maybe pick up an extra shift. Maybe be a bartender somewhere. There's a lot of option and opportunity to find ways to make it work for real cheap, but to keep it less than expensive for things that are more reasonable. I realize that those are the very adventurous versions. So finding Google Flights is an excellent resource for aggregating flights so that you can search a whole bunch of different flights from a bunch of different places. I strongly recommend that tool. And then if you're looking for something, it's your first time out. I've never been anywhere. I don't know where to go. I don't want to hire a travel agent. I'm scared. I don't know what's up. My absolute favorite website for this is Groupon. There is a section in Groupon called Groupon Getaways, and it has air-inclusive travel. And you can get 8 days in Ireland with a car rental and a hotel for $900 a person.
Okay, which
flexible
a
travel.
decent chunk of change for people to come up with, but that's something you can save for.
Absolutely.
Doable. It's not a in 20 years from now I can go. You put a little money back every day or every month, whatever you can do, and eventually you'll get there. So I think that's a great idea. I think one of them you mentioned in your book that might surprise people. You got a deal by knowing a little bit of the native language and got a deal on your ticket pricing. And that surprised me. So how much is a little bit of native language and what are some ways that we can learn? Because I know my French accent is horrid. Horrid.
I understand. I've been told by the Parisians that my French accent sounds Canadian and very dismissive of me, but it is what it is. Paris, in my experience, and I apologize sincerely to any Parisians who may be listening, but you know it's true. So just smile and nod, my friend. When you go to Paris, it doesn't matter what you do or say. It's just a cold sort of culture to outsiders anyway. That chill, frigid wall is a little less intense.
Right.
And I think that it's just courteous, right? How many times do you expect in your day, you know, in your day to day, in your job, in a restaurant, whatever, how would you feel if someone walked up to you immediately and the first thing that they started speaking was French or German or Spanish? What are you going to do? You're going to look at them and go, I'm sorry, I don't understand you, right? That's what you're going to say more than likely. Well, it's the same thing when you go to other people's countries. We as Americans are so spoiled because our culture is our number one export, right? We're so used to everyone else speaking English for us, you know, or wanting to speak English for us or wanting to dress like us. It makes sense like that culturally it's where we are on the global stage, but
it's also a bit arrogant.
It's a little bit, you know, not necessarily rightfully so because America is awesome.
Well, we do have a great country. But to go into somebody else's country, like I've been describing to girls, like we are a guest.
Correct.
And when you're a guest in your home, you don't want them making fun of your food, how you talk. You want them to be appreciative. They don't have to love everything, but they need to appreciate our home when they are a guest in our house. And it's kind of the same thing when you travel. A simple way to do it is just to fumble through saying hello in their native language.
That's like bare minimum, you know. If you can learn, even if you can only learn 3 words of the native language of where you're going, right, it's gonna move mountains for you, right? It's going to help you out. And that's one of the things that I've been very fortunate in that I grew up, like I said earlier, in New Orleans, so there was a lot of French influence. And apparently my French accent is Canadian, which I didn't learn until a few years ago, which I thought was very strange because I'm like, wouldn't it be Cajun? I don't. So it's that one's a confusing language for me, but I
You're
speak,
a complex woman.
it's a diverse world out here. But the number of countries that I've been to, you can do research online, kind of getting back to what you asked earlier, how to learn. You do research online to determine what are the main languages spoken in a country. And then you learn just a little bit of that. Now, there's several different ways to do it. You can do it with phrase books. You can do it with training programs, right? And I understand that all of this sounds like money. You're not wrong. So we're going to do it on the cheap. And the way we do it on the cheap is we find free language learning apps. Duolingo is my personal favorite. I'm pretty sure that I have some ridiculous day streak right now on my phone because I'm still working on my languages, even though I don't really have any travel plans back to Europe right now. I still work on my languages all the time. And I like Italian because Italian is based in Latin. So if I know some Italian, it makes me better at Spanish. It makes me better at French, right?
Yeah.
So learning a root language is a really good way to do it. So, and then just practicing. Hello, how are you? A table for two in a restaurant, knowing how to order food in a restaurant, understanding the customs of how food is consumed in a restaurant. Like all of those things can come out of some of these language learning programs. And another fantastic way to get familiar with a language is listen to their music. So like look up a pop station, like pop music or whatever your genre is, if you like rock or whatever. I just like pop because the words are easier to understand. So like I like to listen to Italian pop music when it's like, okay, well, I need to understand the cadence of the language. Where's the inflection? How do they say these words? How do these things go together, right? That pop music and film, in the modern world of streaming, it's so easy to either put another language's subtitles on, which is one way to do it, but I prefer more immersive, and just watch film in Italian or in French or whatever. Find the language you want to learn and just watch a movie. You don't have to know what's going on, or you can turn on English subtitles if you want to do it that way. But that cultural immersion is a fantastic way to get more familiar with the language.
I love the movie idea too, because when you think of babies, that's how they learn language, is by listening. They don't know that this is a water bottle until you consistently tell them that. So maybe if you watched a movie and listened, you could start using context clues and trying to piece it together, kind of make it a family game or something, you know? So I know with family, traveling is different. So what are some of your top travel tips for people with kids?
So I have never had the fortunate challenge of needing to travel with very small people. Not extensively, but I have watched other people travel with small people, and I have seen various ways that those small people get on everyone's nerves. So I'm going to make this one as delicate as possible and say
because we're not attacking children or babies.
Of course not. No, children are beautiful little souls, and you want to raise them up to be beautiful little people that become beautiful big people that make the world a better place. 100%. That being
and parents are doing their best. We're not judging parents.
That's right.
This is an opportunity, and let's gain some wisdom from Sarah. Here.
Yes. Okay. Now all the parent hate is dialed down. Okay. Thanks, Mom. Sorry, guys. Look, no offense. No offense. But the like kid training, right? I think that a little bit of kid training goes a long way. So I'll tell you a story and you'll see where I'm coming from. I'm sitting on a plane. I fly a great deal. I'm sitting on a plane and I see this adorable child walking in the aisle because Mom wanted to let the child find her own seat. And about every 3 feet, the child would walk and she would go, "Mommy, look." And she would turn around and she would pull on her mom, "Mommy, look." And she would go, "I know, sweetie, go find your seat." And she was like, how do I know which seat's mine?" "Well, you have to look at the numbers." And then she'd stop. "Where are the numbers?" And then she'd show her, "Okay, the numbers are here." "Oh, okay." Well, and then she'd stop and she'd make a couple more steps and then she'd stop. "Well, what are the letters?" "Okay." Every couple feet, and you could see everyone behind them. It's like, okay, this is adorable because your daughter's so excited and nobody wanted to be mean or rude, and so nobody said anything. But by the same token, we need to take off on time. So I think that there's a way that you can meet in the middle. And that meeting in the middle is a little bit of kid training. So you sit down, ideally weeks in advance, right? And you say, okay, sweetheart, here's how it works. This is what a boarding pass is. A boarding pass is our ticket. That's how we get in, right? And then there's going to be a narrow aisle and there's little numbers above the seat, because you've been on an airplane before, but your child never has. How many times do you introduce a new experience to your child and you just drop a minute? You know what I mean? You want to let them know we're going to go to Disney World. Okay, it's going to be a lot of walking, sweetheart. Make sure you're ready. We have to drink water when we're playing outside all day. You prep your children. You should prep them in travel as well. How to find a seat, how to find it quickly, how to use an indoor voice when you're speaking because you're in a shared space with strangers. That's another thing we have in America that's not normal in other parts of the world. We, at least those of us that are not in an urban environment, we don't use public transit at the same frequency. So we're not accustomed to sharing our space. So training your children to share that space, to know what to look for, to know how to speak to a flight attendant, to say, you're going to get a drink, you're going to get a snack, you're going to have to sit still for a long time, or there's going to be a movie in the back of the seat, or whatever it is that your trip requires. I think that getting them used to the idea of those things that are a little odd, that are out of the norm for them, is an excellent way to prevent sort of kid chaos, as it were.
Yeah. They are adorable and sweet, and they take a lot of patience, energy, and time.
Yes, they do. And their curiosity is wonderful. Again, don't get me wrong. I love the wonder on a child's face whenever they're in an airplane the first time and they get excited. But that excitement can be dampened when everybody's, frenetic, everybody's frantic, everybody's on edge already because you got somewhere to be, or you're going to miss a connection, or we're delayed here, or whatever, right? When those heightened emotions are already there, all you're going to do is, you're going to hurt the kids' feelings because you're going to take away the fun. And we don't want that, right? So if you can ease them into it a little bit by explaining how airplanes work. I mean, I don't mean like Bernoulli's principle, but like a flight attendant and a pilot and a seat, this is your seat and you don't touch the person next to you. And, that's kind of the basics.
What I'm hearing is being a considerate traveler, which I think as an adult, we can remember that too. Stepping out of the way because there might be people running to their flight. And also, we never know why somebody else is traveling. Sometimes it's like a sad travel. You might be going someplace for fun and it's exciting, which is wonderful, but there might be some people that really don't want to be traveling because of their circumstance that they're traveling for. So to be considerate of other people, I think preparing makes a ton of sense. One of my favorite plane tricks with little ones, especially if it's dark on the plane, is I take glow sticks.
That's a fun one.
Oh my goodness. It's like the last little trick up my sleeve. Not that we've done a lot of flying with kids because it's very expensive and sometimes it's just easier to drive. But when you need a little trick, you pull out the glow stick. My girls entertain themselves for like a 3-hour flight one night. So you don't use them at home, right? It has to be a surprise thing that they don't normally see as well. So I would love to know, to wrap it up, Sarah, what is your most wild travel story?
Ooh, my most wild travel story. Yikes. I think that I'm going to have to go with a time that I legitimately thought that I was going to be murdered because of questionable decisions. It's very exciting.
Can you say which country?
Oh, yeah, it was Germany.
Germany. Okay.
It was Germany. It was in Dresden, oddly enough, now that I think about it. That's funny. I didn't do that on purpose. So the story is actually
We've come full circle.
Right? We made it all the way back. So this story is actually in this book, along with a variety of other stories. I love telling travel stories. That's actually where this book began, was with an online blog, and it came from those stories because I love them. I love the new things that travel will teach you. And sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's dangerous, and sometimes we make bad decisions, like this guy right here who made a really bad decision. I didn't have a hotel room or a hostel or anything ironed out when I was in Dresden. I just wandered the city, backpack on my back. I wandered the city all day. I stumbled onto a rock concert in a plaza, which was amazing. I sort of crashed a wedding reception. which was really fun. The bride's gown was beautiful, and they made a handsome couple. And I made my way around and through like a closed mini mall and played a baby grand piano for like 30 minutes before the security guard came and kicked me out. You know, it was just a very like meandery sort of day, which is what I enjoy because I never know what I'm going to stumble on. Well, I finally make my way back to, it's like, okay, I know there's a hostel by the train station and it's like 1 a.m. Okay. So dangerous. Like kids don't do this ever.
Yeah. Nobody do this.
Ever. The warnings, there's warnings, plenty of warnings in here. So I'm walking in the middle of the night and I can see the hostel. It's like 2 blocks away. And I hear voices behind me and I'm like, uh-oh. And there's a passel of young men, like Germans, behind me, like a good 100 feet. And I'm like, walk a little faster.
I don't care where you are. That would make me very uncomfortable.
Oh,
in the world.
Sure,
like
sure. Yeah,
that's
not
a woman, especially.
Yeah, not okay because I'm traveling alone, right? I'm backpacking alone. And there's a gang of young men behind me. I'm like, okay, tonight's the night I die. Awesome. And so I keep walking, you know, and I make yourself a hard target, right? When I was in the military, you stand up straight, you're ready to go down fighting kind of thing. You know, you don't want to look like an easy mark. So I'm walking, I walk a little bit faster, but just enough to try to lengthen that stride so I can close the gap to the lights of the hostel up ahead. So I walk a little bit further and they're gaining on me. I'm like, oh man, they must be tall. Crap. Like they got a long stride.
And you're short. Just for people.
I'm tiny, you know, it's like here I'm trying to, you know, wiggle my legs. Oh yeah. And I'm feeling in my pockets. I'm like, do I have it? Because, you know, you can't travel with any kind of weapons or anything. And I'm like, okay, I have an ink pen. Cool. All right, let's get it. Like I'm going to go down swinging. And yeah, you know, you got to make it work with what you have. So they gain on me and they gain on me and they gain on me. And I'm like, all right, yep, tonight's the night I die. And one of them walks up to me and he says something in German. And I went,
German?
And I looked at him and I said, Nein, sprechen Sie Deutsch, which is not even how you say, I don't speak German, right? But when you say that to a German, they're like, oh, you're American every time. It's pretty awesome. And he was like, oh, English? And I went, yes. He goes, oh, you're American. I said, yes, I am. And he was like, where are you headed? And I'm like, sizing him up, like, how many of these guys are there? And he's very friendly, but I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I said, that hostel. And he says, are you traveling alone? Safety tip. I said, are you traveling alone? I said, no, my friends are waiting for me, which wasn't true, but that didn't matter, right? Mm-hmm. He needed to know someone was waiting for me.
You lie to protect your life.
Heck yeah, I did. Yeah. So I said, no, my friends are waiting for me. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. He was like, these are my friends. He said, we're a biker gang. I was like, I'm sorry. And he goes, yeah. We have, you know, and he's telling me about they had really nice bikes, like they had a bunch of Ducatis and stuff. I ended up seeing them a little bit later. Like, they were super nice bikes. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And nice. How long are you in town? You know, like we may as well just keep up the conversation because the hostel's getting closer.
So you're walking as you're talking, which
correct.
Is also very smart.
Yes.
To them. Yep.
So we keep going, we keep closing, and I'm like, okay, I can sprint from here, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. And so we just talk, and he goes on to tell me that they are a biker gang. But this particular biker gang likes to get dressed in head to toe like giant bunny suits, like rabbit suits, and they ride in parades to raise money for children's cancer charities.
Are you kidding me?
And I was like, are you serious right now? Like, really?
I did not see that coming.
And about the time he's telling me about the giant bunny suits, the Ducatis come into view. And I was like, oh, wow, those are really nice bikes. Like, that's not what I was expecting. And then we walked into the hostel. I checked in and he was like, have a good night. I said, you have a good night too. And they were all really, just super cool.
Oh, my word.
I was like,
but also, don't you want to say, dude, do not do that to a woman at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, if you want to talk in the lobby, like that's the safe place.
I know. I don't know what the deal was, but I actually call that story is called Dark Streets and Shady Characters. That's probably my wiliest one. It was very foolish. Like that was a reckless thing to do. And I learned my lesson that night, and somebody was looking out for me because instead of it being the bad kind of biker gang, it was a bunny suit clad kind of biker gang. And that was enough to, right? So that was enough to make sure that I don't wander streets, anymore in the middle of the night like that.
You were probably much younger when you did that and weren't thinking
Yeah.
all the way through.
I think I was 23,
Yeah.
22, maybe.
Yeah.
Young and dumb, thought I was bulletproof. I was fresh out of my time in the military. I'd recently done a tour overseas, all that stuff. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I can take care of myself. Girl, no. That moment taught me that I was grossly outmatched by parts of the world and that I needed to be careful.
Yes, definitely be careful. And you did take care of yourself. You were aware.
True.
You paid attention. You noticed your surroundings, which is like number one. And you kept them talking, and it luckily worked out, thankfully. So, yeah. So I'm fortunate because I can contact you most times, but how can other people get in contact with you? I know that you love to plan trips of a lifetime that people will remember forever. So what's the best way to keep in contact?
Well, I think that's very kind of you. And I do love to just plan once in a lifetime type trips, because helping somebody identify like their travel style and the direction like that means a lot to me, because I know what travel has done for me, and I know how it's made me grow and how it's made me change and what it's made me learn about myself. And I just want to help other people do that too. So the easiest way is to go to my website. It's www.luluavano.com, LULUAVANO.com. Anywhere you see Lulu Avano, that's my brand. So if you see it on Instagram, though, I admit that the last couple of years since COVID, that website has been very quiet because I've done some international travel here or there, but because things keep changing so much, so it's not up to date, but there's still stories in there, and there's still ways to get a hold of me if you want to do like a preliminary discussion of what kind of vacation you might be interested in or anything like that. But yeah, that's really the easiest way. It's luluavano.com.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah, for being with me today and with all the listeners. And of course, I know we'll have to do a recap next summer or fall.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We'll wait, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
No, thank you so much, Tasha, for having me. I still can't believe that I was so lucky to sit next to you at BookCon, and to see your beautiful books and what it is that you're building, building resilience in young children and helping young people have access to tools that they need to be able to communicate and understand themselves. It's interesting. It's a similar line of work, right? You like to help children develop resilience. I like to help adults develop self-reflection, right? Maybe that's why we click so much.
That's right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Diary of a Dreamer. I hope you found the stories and tips shared today to be a source of motivation and strength. Remember, every challenge you face is a chance to grow and move closer to your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with anyone who could use a boost of encouragement. Join us next time for more insights and inspiration to keep you on your path to success. Until then, keep dreaming big and embracing the journey.